Vincent? Vince? Vince or Vincent?
Vincent, please.
Vincent?
Yeah. It was great. Growing up, I was young. Everyone was Vinny because Vinny Barbarino. Then it kind of went away, 87, 88.
Yeah.
Then 1990, my cousin Vinny came out, and I'm like, I'm going to be fighting this my whole life. So, yeah.
All right. So, Vincent Errichetti,
Yep.
founder of Taste of Massachusetts. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. This kind of started, we were looking out to our event, Shaping New England on February 20th, and, kind of got connected with you, and, we started talking about, the idea of the role that you play in travel, tourism, economic development, and it's sort of a potentially new angle for, government and, potentially even corporate America to understand really how much the work that you do pushes foot traffic.
Oh, absolutely.
And economic activity. So take us on a little bit of a ride, kind of, how did you establish, Taste of Massachusetts, and how's it grown?
Well, like most people who start their own business, I got laid off. And I was doing something similar. So I decided, I'm like, well, from now on, whatever I build out, whatever brand I build out, it's going to be mine. I'm going to own it. I'm going to have it forever, whether it's a side hustle or a mainstay job. And so 10 years ago, I started Taste of Massachusetts. I love the fact that I kind of own it. Yeah. And I can really just focus on, my approach. I'm much more travel channel, and I'm much less QVC. I'm much less reality TV. I'm not trying to make myself a star. I'm trying to really profile places I cover. And I started with restaurants because, that's what you know best. Kind of, it's, easy entry way because of dollars and cents wise. And about 2 or 3 years in, Hotel Viking in Newport, Rhode Island reached out to me. And I'm like, I'm a food blogger. And they're like, don't worry. And I came and I covered them just as I would. And I realized, there is a one-to-one crossover of audience that loves travel food.
Sure.
It's a one-to-one.
Yeah.
My travel content always outperformed my food content. And I realized people were starved for it. People weren't getting it as much. It's more difficult to do for a blogger, influencer, whatever you want to call us. And so that's when I started to make sure, all right, I'm going to make sure it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's on TikTok, it's on YouTube Shorts. I'm putting my stuff out everywhere, and I built my brand on all the platforms. A lot of quote unquote influencers, they stick to one and spend all their time on it, and it's very short-sighted because, again, no offense to them, of course, but it's very short-sighted because that's not where all the people are. You're going to have slightly older, more affluent people on Facebook. You're going to have younger, more single people on Instagram. TikTok, their algorithm really focuses on people regionally and based on interest. It's an interest graph. YouTube has changed a lot in the last year. YouTube Shorts, huge for local and regional as well. I think they kind of saw what worked for TikTok's algorithm. And they decided to kind of mimic it, which was good. Good for people like us. So I've been able to really build out, all those channels. And then I also built a email list because going direct, there was that one time when Facebook and Instagram was down for like 18 hours. And I blasted out a newsletter sending people back to my webpage. And I got huge reaction from it. And I'm just like, this is why you do it. You always got to have those backups. So in a nutshell.
Yeah. Is there a point where that you remember of like where it was, you telling the restaurant or the establishment, what you did and versus, and getting sort of their blessing or permission or support versus when now they're asking you to come in? Was that Viking that was that inflection, or were there others?
Not so much that, but one thing I notice, especially now, because there's so many people doing it between food and travel, and they'll have 3,000 followers and they'll be expecting to get a free weekend, not a free weekend, but a free stay at a resort. I always tell people, I had 10,000 followers on Instagram before I ever got invited anywhere for free. and a lot of
Takes
them
work.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I grew relatively fast, so that was maybe only a year and a half into this whole journey. But I see people now with small followings, like with just expecting, and I'm like, guys, this isn't a passion project promoting yourself. That you have to give value to these resorts and to these restaurants and to these places that you cover. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I've had, really solid success. I'm not blowing up the world with my numbers, but at the same time, everywhere I cover, it's solid. It's, it's expected. And kind of to a different degree, like I said, my approach is different. I'm much more focused on promoting the place. Like I said, Travel Channel, not, not influencer marketing, whatever stereotypes people think.
Sure.
And I think they appreciate it. A lot of the businesses.
Fieri and Bourdain-esque.
No, I mean, well, with them, again, they were, Bourdain.
R.I.P.
Yeah, exactly. But Bourdain, he truly understood and respected and learned from it. And it's a totally different animal between that and social media. Because, like, one of the things we're starting to see now with, like, Google is losing so much market share of attention to whether it's, any of these AI products or even social first. I think there was a Forbes study last year that said people under 40 were searching things on social media platforms before going to Google, which all of a sudden they stopped doing those studies.
Yeah. No, social was taking off, and there's the projection that AI search is going to surpass Google search by 2028 or 9.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also efficient. Like, if someone's looking for something specific, they don't want to see 50 million ads for something that happens to be in the same area. Like, if you want family-friendly resort in Stowe, Vermont, you want the Trapp Family Lodge. You don't want all of the other places that would be amazing for Valentine's Day getaways.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so AI kind of...
Have you seen a shift as AI has grown, or have you considered creating the Taste of Massachusetts agent? So, like, is that a place that you're worried about losing ground?
I'm not worried about losing ground because I know it'll direct and use what I've posted as source material, because AI still needs the source material. But at the same time, I mean, I use it a lot more. I use it because it's efficient for research. It's efficient for copywriting, editing and copywriting. I usually write it out myself first and then just make sure it's, it's where I want it to be.
Yeah, it's a huge productivity enhancer if you,
It's like having a secretary, like a copywriting secretary who's going to read everything over, and it's brilliant.
Do you think that, how as you're operating, that New England or Massachusetts has any sort of unique characteristics when it comes to sort of the world that you're in? Is it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just look at how many, and this is not a criticism, it's an observation. How many people move to Massachusetts from elsewhere and all of a sudden they become an influencer or a blogger? And all of a sudden they're like, with these Midwestern accents, and they're like, come down to the Regina Pizza in Boston or whatever. And it's like, I'm glad they're doing it. And and if anything, it shows the value of New England, the value of what we have to offer. But at the same time, like, there's a lot of people who, like, we know, and so I do think, again, Massachusetts is New England, I want to say, is a great place to live because we got the ocean in the summer. We've got, all of Cape Cod, Martha's Vineyard, Nantucket, if that's where you want to go.
Yep.
Newport, Rhode Island, Madison Beach in Connecticut is beautiful. Madison Beach Hotel I've been to, that whole area is amazing. By the way, total sidebar, whoever is sourcing their tuna is getting like amazing sushi level tuna.
Yeah.
But there's so much, and there's so much to discover that, even with what I'm doing, I try to stay away from Boston, not because there's not a lot to do in Boston, but because there is so much around the city that, generally doesn't get get covered. It's
Yeah,
also
Boston itself was covered. Right.
right. Well, it's also the reason why, you know, people say Taste of Massachusetts. I also have Taste of New England pages, and people always say, you know, oh, you're from Massachusetts. Why are you covering these places? I'm like, because New England, like an hour and a half, you can get pretty much anywhere in New England, depending on, you know, if you're starting from some place a little bit central.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I've been to Portland, Maine a half dozen times, New Hampshire, Vermont, like everywhere. Like there's so much. And I think it's an embarrassment of riches. I also think, and we don't really talk about it enough, I think as bloggers, influencers, whatever, there's stuff year round. We have great skiing. We have great beaches in the summer, great skiing in the winter, fall. Everyone loves New England in the fall. You know, obviously, you know, Salem is just ridiculous in October. I grew up on the North Shore, so I remember maybe 25 years ago going with my friends to Salem on Halloween just because, and it was no problem. Now you got to plan a month in advance, like there's no way.
Yeah.
But we do have so much,
Yeah.
and it's not. I don't think it's talked about enough that, you know, we really are a region. We're not really just, you know, 6 individual states.
And as a region, do a pretty poor job kind of conveying that, right? You know, I always think
I hate to say it, but it's true.
yeah, I mean, I think that's why it's such a unique area and opportunity for you, right? Because like that story is not being told, you know, and I haven't been in a hotel in Boston in a while, but you know, just kind of going through, you know, recent memory, when we go outward and go on vacation, you go into the hotel lobby and it's what excursions, what activities, are you into history, or are you into food, or are you into this? And the concierge kind of can build these itineraries for you. It's not really done here. It's like the people that are visiting are kind of expected to have already built, you know, their own. And I think that's what makes it, you know, really prime for an influencer network, a trusted one, right? To recommend great places.
And it's true because, you know, I know influencers who are always, you know, they're always getting these top-notch visits and they're not growing their audience. And I'm like, because, you know, if once every 3 weeks you're going to a beautiful hotel, that's great. But you're not like you're not giving people anything in the interim. No. I've tried to have tiers of content where I will go into a deli. I will find bibimbap, which is a Korean rice bowl. You know, I'll go out of my way to find something very ethnic foods or very small shops, but at the same time, I'll still do features of high-end restaurants. I'll still do, you know, obviously the travel stuff, which always does the best. I mean, I did Martha's Vineyard in a day, and it was every piece of content went crazy because people, like you said, they're starved for it, and they're not necessarily getting it because I don't know if so much of it is tied to hardcore dollars and cents and paid advertising, but like the big places that can afford to advertise, they're going to advertise. And a lot of times they're going to have like 1 or 2 influencers a year instead of, you know, do more, get more content, get more real content from real people, diversify the content. Don't just, you know, it's not just, you know, rich, young, beautiful couples, it's families. It's a lot of single women who travel, things
like
that.
That's part of it too, right? Like you said, like there's whether they're moving to Massachusetts from the Midwest, right, and they're got their cowboy boots on and straw hat or whatever, you know, but
which is fine, you know.
But there is that element of those that have the dollars to spend do so in volume, and then, you know, it's not as authentic, right? So you have those real stories where you're showing real people, showing the real experience, a little bit of that more raw behind the scenes. I think that's where, you know, what's lacking is like, here's the reality of it, right? You know,
like there's one, I have a friend, I'm going to still silly shout him out. He focuses almost exclusively on pizza, and his page is called We Say Gravy, and he loves pizza. Like that's his main thing. And he says, one of the best places, he said, pizza is a place on Nantucket. And I'm like, how wonderful would it be to go to Nantucket, of all places, and just cover a pizza place?
Yeah. Yeah.
and just shout out this little place that probably is not in any tour guide. You know what I mean? Like that's the type of stuff I look for. And truth be told, that's what people want. They want those.
They don't want the commercial, like
Right.
the typical experience. As you were talking about that, I was thinking about, did you ever like that like iconic shot of Greece?
Yes, the part.
I've never been, but like, or no, the blue, like,
Yeah, the lit up. Yeah.
yeah. So apparently, like, there's like this little alley that like people line up for like a mile to just take that one shot, and it's like it's only that like one picturesque area, and then everything else is just hustle and bustle and
Right.
kind of completely different. So I always thought that
it's
that's
true.
the influencer world that the skeptics see, right? So it's nice to see the realness.
But to your point, like the high end stuff, it's getting put out there. You can find it. Like you're gonna get those. I always make a joke anytime I see a restaurant with a drone shot over the restaurant. I'm like, if you're not offering helicopter rides, they're never going to experience what you're showing them. Like you're just showing off your big building. So to your point, it's you're in an alleyway, or actually it was in Rockport. Motif number 1, that red building on the water that everyone takes a picture of.
Yeah.
Similar thing. You have to go around the corner of a little chocolate shop's famous candy shop. You go around the corner, down the hallway, and you're standing on basically a little parking lot, tiny.
Yeah.
But you get the best shot.
Right.
The light is perfect, but you're in shade, so you get beautiful. To your point,
No one else experience,
right? I like to show people what they can actually experience.
Yeah.
So I will show, if there's a petting zoo, I'll show sheep.
Right.
Like right there, boom.
Yeah. What's do you have a short list of sort of the ideal experiences you haven't gotten to do yet that you'd love an invite to?
I mean, honestly, some of them are higher end because I don't reach out to them just because I realize if I'm going to do it, I'm going to need 2 days. I'm going to need to, and they're going to want me to do it during the week. They're never going to want it on the weekend, which I respect. I always respect that. I've really been to, off the top of my head, not really, because if I'm going to do something like that, it's going to be, hey, Disney World.
Yeah.
I want to show you off with my daughter, and it's going to be something like that, because I think now, to your point, people are starting to realize audience is audience, content is content.
Is that the next step for you? Is sort of broader region? I mean, people that follow you, yes, they
Right.
live in New England, right? But they also travel.
I will say when I think it was 3 years ago when I went to Disney with my wife and daughter, and I did post some content, it did ridiculously well. Probably because my audience is roughly 70%, 70% women 30 to 50. And it used to be women 20 to 40, but as I've gone older, they've stuck with me. And I think that's probably something that is really more important than saying, am I going to grow? Am I going to look to different things? I think it's really just a matter of obviously continuing to grow your audience, but expand to where as long as I'm giving people quality content, that's all that really matters. Like I said, whether it's a pizza place or a 4-star hotel on Martha's Vineyard or whatever, as long as the content's good, they're gonna flow and follow.
Have you considered, or kind of expanding your footprint with sort of bringing folks on that are, you said as you age, your audience ages. So have you thought about bringing in a couple young folks to build the younger audience? Or
The truth be told, that type of stuff is really more based on investments and business flow. I've worked with some travel and tourism groups. I know they're usually GMOs separately.
Yeah.
Or not, I'm using the wrong acronym, but you know what I mean. They're government-run travel and tourism, government-funded travel and tourism third-party agencies. And truth be told, in order for me to grow as a brand, I'd need more sponsorships. I'd need more investors. Right now, I'd explore it. I'd take a meeting, but it's not necessarily something I'm looking towards. I would love to eventually just be creative director, still go out in the field, but do that. But the economics of that are much different. The economics of it, like turning into something like a Yankee magazine, possible. I think I've set up my brand that way, but it would take investment. You know, nothing happens overnight.
So, what else do you want to share about it with us?
I think it's amazing the way social media is downplayed in terms of content creators of any kind being seen as, oh, we'll do it on straight trade, but not paid. And the reason I say this isn't just because I want to be paid, because I could not be paid ever again and still run my pages perfectly fine. What I'm starting to see is a lot of places care more about the aesthetic than the storytelling. And the storytelling is what's going to sell, is going to convert sales for businesses. And if businesses don't realize that, what's going to happen is you're just going to get watered down. Everything is a pretty girl holding a champagne glass. That doesn't tell the story. You know, I recently gave a couple of shout outs to other influencers who I thought were telling stories really well. And one of them is Brittany from Boston Food Journal, because she does these really crazy shots sometimes. And one of her things is called Meals on Heels, where she'll lie on the ground with like a Manolo Blahnik on her shoe, on her foot, put it up in the air and put a plate with a burger on it or something crazy like that. And I'm just like, oh, that's awesome. And I would think that people would be jumping more towards things that were different, tell stories, and not be so, you know, so accustomed to, you know, they pay a PR company $10,000 a month. Again, high end, obviously, but like a Boston restaurant group would pay a PR company $10,000 a month. And their number one job is to get people like me to cover them, because I have an audience, I do the content. And it's like, guys, you got to share the wealth.
Yeah, it's like,
just to survive. Like, I just want to pay bills, you know?
well, from a brand, you know, or from a restaurant group, like, you know, there's so much of they want to throw money at it, get the post, and think it's going to translate directly, right? And we know it's not always one-to-one like that.
To your point, the problem is a lot of people, and again, I'm older, you know, I'm 49. I'm not the average influencer, but a lot of the people who are doing the purchasing or are owning the businesses, they remember a time where it was, you go on Good Morning America and you demo, you know, you cook something, and all of a sudden you're America's chef, and all of a sudden you sell 1 million cookbooks, and all of a sudden your restaurant's packed for 5 years.
Right.
We don't live in that world anymore.
Yeah.
And social media, everyone talks about going viral. It's not about going viral. It's about constant content, day in, day out. Every now and then, yeah, you'll get something that'll go viral. But people who are doing these skits, like, skits will go viral, but it's not going to sell anything.
Right. I mean, there's almost too much noise now to really have an impact, you know, to go quote unquote viral. Like, there's just too much of it.
And to your point, this is why I'm on every single platform, because every platform caters to a different group of people. You know, Facebook does cater to a slightly older audience, but they're also well-heeled. Yeah. They will spend. Instagram is very flashy. It's very travel-focused, but it's also much younger.
Do you use Reddit at all?
No, and part of the reason I love Reddit, but I'm creating content. It's the same reason why I don't use Twitter. I'm creating content. That's not a world of content. That's a world of text and you know, content in terms of
and you risk the like, oh, go to my page for the answer.
Yeah, and I don't want to be begging for clicks. I want to just put content out there, and if people like it, it does well. Again, to your point, but you know, expanding on it, the reason why I'm on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and YouTube Shorts, I will post the same exact video with the same caption on every single one of those pages, and it'll go viral on one and not another. And then the next day, it'll go viral on a different one and not the original. And so that's the reason why I think influencers need to understand they need to start diversifying where they're putting stuff, but they also need to understand that you're not going to beat the algorithm. Whatever, originally the algorithm was they want to collect data of quality. So if you put a ton of keywords and a ton of content about burgers, they want to sell Red Robin wants to do national ad buys with Facebook. So you need to give them content to know who to send it to, people who like burgers. Now, who knows what
Campfire sauce, by the way, is legit.
But now who knows what they want? Like they're using the algorithm based on the market research they want, based on the data they want to collect.
Well, they're also just trying to keep you down the rabbit hole. So it's just, like you get one so you can't get out.
Again, that's why Instagram, you can't link out of Instagram because they don't want you to leave it. But Facebook you can, but not really because they're tracking you. So they don't care if you leave.
And you're customizing the story for the different platforms, or
I'm not, because I would not learn anything if I was doing that. If I was chasing the rabbit on Facebook and chasing the rabbit on Instagram, I'd be creating 4 separate pieces of content each time to try to maximize each. I'd make it super short for Instagram. I would cater to an older audience on Facebook. You can't do that because you learn nothing. You learn nothing of how they change the algorithm. I tell you something else. I'm not posting I will post, but I'm not worried about my numbers 3 weeks before Christmas because I know so many people are buying ads. That organic content is being pushed away, and Facebook and Instagram and all the platforms, they're prioritizing who's paying them right before Christmas.
So for businesses, brands that want to work with you, what's the process? What's it look like? How do you?
Usually they just reach out. I'm in a fortunate position where I'll do a lot of I normally do so much consulting that I don't necessarily have to rely on that as 90% source of my income. They just reach out. Usually, again, it's almost always through a PR agent or someone.
Okay.
And they put out their offer, and we go back and forth.
You discuss kind of how do you have certain criteria on how you will or will not sort of get to any key points that they want to convey, or how do you maintain their expectations but also your sort of authenticity?
Most of the places that reach out are usually pretty good about understanding that I'm doing it in my voice. They always want to put in stuff that sounds like a damn commercial. And I'm sorry, if you post a commercial on social media, it's going to die on the vine. People sniff it out right away, and they're not going to interact. And if people don't engage with it, if I did an actual commercial of what some of these people want, verbatim, it would fall flat.
I mean, it definitely, yeah.
And I've done it, by the way. I've done it sometimes just so they could see. And you have to. You
don't want to sacrifice your own reputation though, because then you're getting then even if you're doing it to show them, then you're still putting it out there.
Again, this is the reason why I do so much as much volume as I can. I will cover small places. I will cover big places. I cover a lot of places out of pocket, which a lot of influencers don't.
Yeah.
And so, you see a lot of these influencers, and they're covering nothing out of pocket, which means everything is technically a commercial. And you can tell, I'm sorry, but everything is not amazing. Everything is not life-changing.
Right.
You're not obsessed with every burger that you taste.
No, and you can tell, I don't know, my Spotify recommendations have gone to crap since the kids. So, unless I want to get the latest monster truck Hot Wheels playlist, I was listening to the regular radio recently, and it's to hear the on-air reads, you can literally tell when they're this is ridiculous content that they're asking us.
Yeah.
They're laughing through it, or they're trying to make it sound a little bit more organic and struggling. And it's similar, right? People see through it.
Especially now, because there are so many influencers doing content just for the love of the game. And so a commercial is, the best example was 2 or 3 years ago. My family cut the cord. My brother's family cut the cord as far as cable's concerned. We were visiting my parents, and the kids, my two nephews and my daughter, were watching TV. And we forgot they were watching real TV for the first time. And a commercial came on, and all of a sudden they started crying. And we're like, what's wrong? Something's wrong. The show's not on. And I look, and it was a commercial. And I'm like, this is the
Your brain
greatest.
feel to sit and watch content with kids.
This is the greatest. But that was like the greatest moment for a case study discussion, because guys, as soon as they become consumers,
Yeah.
you think programmatic commercial, interruptive, I call it interruptive advertising. You think interruptive advertising is dropping off now? Wait 10 years.
They like, my kids are young, but they have no context of what a commercial is, and they're, they want to watch this, like, go to Netflix, go to Disney Plus, go to YouTube, like, and it's just, you're just like, just constant stream of content without any interruption, right? Is a game changer. It's a good point. What's that you are willing to share? What's like the best kept sort of secret spot that you've discovered?
I am not a gatekeeper.
Okay.
And so I tell people. So I'll go. So again, I'm using Martha's Vineyard just because it's a context. People understand it for context. There is a tiny little place called Behind the Bookstore that is literally a counter behind the bookstore and down a little alley. And I remember 6 years ago when I first went, I just looked around. I'm like, what's this? Awesome little place. And they had, it's a lot of it is Caribbean style food, but it's counter food, so it's easy. But it's also a beautiful little bakery, amazing,
Cool. Yeah.
And I remember covering that, and it went crazy. People went nuts for it, and I'm like, it just reinforces that, like, exactly what you're saying. Like, these little places are what people go nuts for. I just covered a pizza place that is around a corner. It's been there for 50 years, 60 years, around the corner from where I grew up in Woburn. And I never covered them before, but I'm like, I got to cover them. It's so good pizza. And it went crazy. It had like on aggregate on all channels, 500,000 views to the video. And it, again, this type of thing just reinforces that people really want those, those little hidden jewel type places.
For sure.
To that point, I was doing some work with some tourism groups and a lot on the North Shore in Massachusetts. And they would have me cover a place. And when I would go there, I'd be like, well, I'm already here. So if I'm going to cover this great boutique hotel, Addison Choate, it's beautiful in Rockport, I'm going to cover 5 or 6 other places while I'm here. I'm going to go to the candy shop. I'm going to cover that. I'm going to cover, the 2 best places to get lobster rolls here. I'm going to do those types of things because I understand that content is probably going to do better than, and it did. And it did. Not that anything doesn't, you never know at the end of the day is what I mean.
But I think that's like,
but that gives people a reason to, if you're trying to push people to go to Rockport for a vacation, and you want them to stay at the Addison Choate Hotel, and you show the boutique hotel and how cute it is, it's a very 70s theme, it's awesome. That's not going to get them to go. What's going to get them to go is if I'm also covering 4 or 5 other places in that town while I'm there.
Because then they actually know that there's, I can now do something, or you can stitch these experiences together. Because otherwise, great, I'll kick Connecticut, great pizza in New Haven, no doubt, right? But what else are we doing to, get people to travel truly and stay and spend the next dollar and the next dollar and the next dollar?
When I was staying at the Madison Beach hotel, even though it was like the only trip I've ever taken where the weather was horrible, but it was beautiful.
That sucks too.
It really stinks. But amazing spa that I probably never would have covered as much. Amazing little restaurants in the area. I think we drove to, what's the brewery that's right on the river? Of course, I'm not going to remember off the top of my head.
Oh, there's so many.
That's going to kill me.
Yeah.
But I remember, because it was a weekday, so we had the place to ourselves, nice deck overlooking a sandy area with games. And I'm just like, again, it was overcast, but I'm like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
and no one's covering places like this. And so that kind of makes me, again, a lot of this stuff, the more you do, the more it reinforces that the carbon copy stuff that you see a lot of travel influencers, or the RFPs that come out that say, we want you to do this, 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 and this. And it's like, okay. It's like when a restaurant says, you know what we do great? And I'm always like, fried Brussels sprouts. And they're like, how'd you know? And I'm like, because it's the highest profit margin item you have. And so you want to push it. And I'm like, but no one cares. No one cares. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's like what's today's special? It's like wherever it was left over from yesterday.
Well, I had one restaurant that was doing prime rib one night a month. And they're like, you need to come in for this. And I'm like, no, I'm going to have 1 million people saying I couldn't get the prime rib because I went there and they said they only have it one day a month. And I'm like, you have to explain to them that it's not TV, it's not programmatic. It's,
right. So for the event, are you coming?
Yes,
Confirmed?
absolutely. Yep.
You talking?
I think so. At least a short. Basically breaking down how things have changed, so that because I want these businesses to succeed, and I want them to know that you have to focus on what works, not what you think works or what other people are doing. Because again, the world of social media, everyone's just following trends, and they're not basically saying, but does it work? So a lot of times they're doing like these little skits with like the owner, what it's like to be what you think it's like to be owner, what it's really like to be owner. Those don't bring people in the door. What brings people in the door is showing, these, great burgers, great whatever. Like Boston Burger Company does a great job of this. Just the owner sitting there saying, hey, here's a burger. And he talks about it, and it's beautiful, and it's in front of him, and simple, straightforward. And a lot of times that's what works to actually convert.
Unless it's like a underground college spot, like T. Anthony's. It's got, I'm sure like there's like I think it's a BC like deli, but it's got some giant sandwich, and like if you can finish it, you get your name.
Eagle Deli.
Is it Eagle?
I think it's Eagle's Deli. Yeah, they have I think it's a 14 patty.
Yeah,
burger.
it's something crazy.
Yeah, it's
I
insane.
boycott it because I'm a bee person. Bee fashion.
Well, I mean, there's tons of places. Like I remember for Harvard Square, everyone goes to Pinocchio Pizza because they do Sicilian square slices. And what's his name? Mark Zuckerberg used to always go there. And when he came back to speak, he brought his wife there. And I'm like, okay,
yeah,
it's
like.
Now everyone knows
Mark
about it.
once stood here. This is freaking great.
Well, I mean, he apparently really did go there a lot and liked it. But what I mean is, like, once something like that happens, everyone knows about it.
Right.
Yeah.
For the 20th, the hope is that we get representation from or thorough representation, I'll say, from the whole region. That could mean many creators or many influencers, want to kind of see what opportunities there are, or if you could sort of take your experience and push it into their brain, as like as pretext for their attendance of like what you try and get through to folks, and that are potentially just looking to be the next viral influencer, knowing that that's not necessarily true, but about how you could really operate as sort of a full force, not competitive, but collaborative.
Well, I mean, the beauty is there is no competition in social media. You're competing against yourself, against the day, time, and moment that you're posting that content, whether it's relevant to your audience, because everyone's audience is different. See, this is what everyone forgets. Yeah, it can go viral, but it starts with the audience that you've already attracted. One thing I would tell them is, where is it? Which ballroom is it in?
I don't know.
So
It's not Foxwoods. I don't know.
So one thing about Foxwoods that I think people always...
Maybe we'll edit below at some point.
One thing I think people sleep on in Foxwoods, which I did work with them over a year. It was over 2 years ago now. Their spas are amazing. And I did a fork and lift. So my best friend is actually a men's over 50 bodybuilder, competes in all the New England stuff. And so we did a workout and then a spa and then dinner. And, I covered it. And these places are amazing. Like they have two of them too. I think there's the newer one and then there's the Norwich one, I think. Anyway,
Norwich is offsite because that's at the Norwich Inn, I think.
No. They built. Oh God, I'm gonna forget. Anyway, they're both beautiful.
Okay.
Like it doesn't matter which one you go to. Okay.
Yeah.
But I remember because they said, "Oh, you think your audience will be interested?" I'm like, "Yes, trust me." And I covered it. I did a separate video of it. Went crazy viral. This is now probably 2.5 years ago. And I did it in the winter because I'm like, people. It's an enclosed. The pool and hot tub are enclosed in a glass building that's like 2 stories up.
Okay.
So you see the tree line, and if it's snowing, you can be in the hot tub looking at it, which I love. I did a separate video on that for places in New England. But if you especially during April vacation or February vacation for kids, you want to take the kids to a place where they can go to a pool that's enclosed. It's beautiful. And so again, I think that's something that they would have never asked an influencer to cover, but I understood that it's the audience. The audience isn't a one note. They used to always say niche down with what you're covering. I'm opposite. Niche down to the audience you have and let them promote it and proselytize it or whatever. But I think that's the biggest opportunity. You see a lot of influencers go somewhere and, like I was saying before, they'll cover the one place that they were hosted at and nothing else. Like, guys, cover as much as possible because it's only going to help you in the long run. You can never do too much.
Compound story too, like knowing your audience, right? It's like they, for them, they want to promote the Great Wolf Lodge that just opened, right? So it's like, let the kids go play, and here's your spa day, as a couple, as a retreat.
Absolutely. Did you? I mean, I've been sending it to a ton of influencers, business owners that I know, just because. First of all, I love the fact that you're doing it on a Friday. Like, that's a huge help.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you can't burn a Saturday or a Sunday. And I do understand, you have to do certain events on weekends, but it's such a help that it's on a Friday that you can actually, plan it out and treat it as work because it is work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm sending it out, forwarding it to people. I'm like, guys, seriously, like you got to start expanding because so much. Again, to your point, so much of these influencers, they want to stay in their lane. They think they know everything for what they're doing, and you got to expand. You have to.
Even just making the relationships so you can refer to your other, other influencers, but that are similarly situated or have like minds, and you can expand your community, but you can still stay in your lane.
Yeah. One other thing, just again to another point you were mentioning. When I said I don't gatekeep including restaurants or resorts or connections because let's say Portland Harbor Hotel hosts me. They're not going to host me for another 2 years if I'm going to go back. Why not connect them to other influencers I know that I think do a good job, that they can get value from, and then that relationship that I have builds with both of them, the hotel. I don't see enough of that happening in the influencer industry. I don't know where, because, a lot of them are very kumbaya, younger, and yet they're acting like Gordy Gecko. And I'm like, you guys never saw Wall Street. How can you be like this cutthroat?
Yeah.
And it doesn't help. It doesn't help them. And so I think that's another great thing that this event can do. I've said from day one, networking is the most important thing. I don't understand why every single Chamber of Commerce isn't mandated to have a networking night once every 2 months, or even just speed networking.
Gatekeeping your hidden gem doesn't actually grow.
It doesn't. It doesn't at all.
Yeah. Well, Vincent, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to the 20th. Taste of Massachusetts, Taste of New England. .com. Or at
tasteofmass.com.
Tasteofmass.com.
But everything is taste. You Google Taste of Massachusetts, you'll find everything.
See ya. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.